Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel and checking out today's episode. And guys, today I have got one of those information-packed videos that nobody ever watches because it's not one of those deals that's like a quick fix and it's the easy fix. I want to talk about how you can go about locating bass the quickest on any lake that you fish, as far as getting out there, not wasting time, getting on the fish as quick as you possibly can. And that's what it's all about, because bass fishing, once you reach a certain level, like once you get to sort of an intermediate scale or intermediate skill level in bass fishing, you're going to catch them. The only variable is how long it's going to take you to find them. Sometimes you're going to find them right off the bat. Sometimes it's going to take you all day. Sometimes it may take you a week. So I got some tips and advice I want to give you guys on how to cut down that time as far as locating those fish. So we're going to get into that in today's video. I've also, guys, for get started, just a quick invitation. Just like to invite everybody, anyone interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, guys. You can go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message. These are lessons that I do here in Missouri on Stockton Lake and Table Rock mainly, and it's a great way to learn. If you got a technique you want to learn about, I can help you guys with that. Just shoot me a private message again on my Facebook page, and I'll get you guys set up with that. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody who's taking time to subscribe here to Intuitive Angling. Really appreciate that. Okay, guys, I've talked about this before, some of the stuff, but I want to go into a little bit more detail on some things you can do to locate fish quickly on the lake you go to. One thing I'll tell you guys right off the bat, you guys heard of me talk about my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns that I built for Fish the Moment. If you guys want to get some spots you can go right to, like GPS locations that I have, mapped out on different lakes across the country for all 4 seasons, my Fish the Moment lake map breakdown link is in the description of the video. That's a really good resource to learn more about your lake. But if you're on your own and you just want to go out to find them, here's some things that, I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to do. The first thing is a little bit of preparation. Like I said, you got to prepare before you go to the lake. And a lot of times I do a lot of my practicing before a tournament, but without even getting on the water. Now, we talked about this before, but if you haven't seen the videos here, I want to reiterate some of the basic stuff you can do. First thing, guys, is just get online, Google the lake you're going to. A lot of times there's going to be some fishing reports that you have there. But let me caution you on these fishing reports. Take them with a grain of salt, because be very, very wary of any guides that put up fishing report, because if you've ever watched a fishing or read a fishing report from a guide, it's like they make you think that the lake's on fire 365 days a year. A typical guide report is like, fishing's been really good on the lake this week and it's only going to get better next week. That's what you hear from a guide report. So I don't listen to guides on there. You want to listen to more like, say, lake groups and stuff like that they have, or individual people that have been out. So don't pay much attention to guides. The next thing you can, and that sort of gives you a vibe for what's going on as far as like the lake levels and water temperature and, what have been the primary patterns, if you can sift through the fake information. So that's one way. Another thing that I always do, guys, is the first thing I do is I always go to Google Earth. Google Earth, you can download that app. It's a really good tool to learn, how the lake is laying out, because Google Earth, it's going to tell you the type of cover. You can see cover, you can see docks, you can see grass beds, you can see, bank cover, rock transitions, you can see water clarity changes in the lake you're fishing. You can go back and search history on a lake, and you can see different, levels of the water. You can see the lake when it was high, normal, or low. So try to use that Google Earth tool a lot. It will really help you get familiar with the lake, especially if you've never seen it before. And even if you're familiar with a lake and you haven't fished the whole lake, it shows you the whole lake. So, you may have fished a part of a lake just on the lower end, but you've never been up the lake or up in the creek arms. It's a really good resource to show you the whole lake. Okay, the next thing you can do, and again, if you've watched my channel much before, you've heard me talk about this before, but it cannot be overstated. You have to develop a knowledge of seasonal patterns. And that's why here on my channel, I talk a lot about seasonal patterns and movements of bass, because unless you're a spotlighter and you don't have to have any bass fishing skills whatsoever, and you just put that, spotlight machine out and just scan the area. You're going to have to understand bass movement and seasonal behavior. That's what real bass fishing is. This is something that takes a long time to do, and having an understanding of seasonal movement and patterns of bass will put you in the right area as far as the area of the lake based upon the season. Now, every season of the year has got certain parts of the lake that are better than others, and usually this is based upon your water clarity and the predominant cover in a certain part of the lake. In general, you're going to have cleaner water on the lower end of the lake. The mid part of the lake is sort of that in between, and the extremities of the lake is going to have your most off-colored water. Now, there are some exceptions to that. There are some lakes where it actually gets cleaner at the extremities, but for the most part, that's how it goes. So based upon your knowledge of seasonal patterns, that will put you in the high percentage area of the lake. So let's say, for example, how to find them quick. Let's say we're going to both, it's January and we're going to go bass fishing. I know from my knowledge of seasonal patterns of bass that the upper end of the lake is not going to be the place to be. Bass in cold water, they prefer clear water. They bite better in clear water. So that's immediately going to put me on the lower end of the lake in the clear water. If it's springtime of the year and I know those fish are thinking about spawning, they're wanting to find those type of areas, then I'm going to look for those type of areas. I'm going to go into Google Earth. I'm going to find the flatter coves, the protected coves, maybe some that's got some harder bottom. I'm going to look in those type of areas for those type of fish. And then maybe in the summertime of the year, I'm going to be looking for some offshore fish. Maybe I'm looking for deeper points, that type of structures. So I'm going to try to locate some areas maybe in the mid part of the lake that sort of has a combination of the two. And just another example, if I'm fishing in the early fall, the lake's low and the fishing's tough, one of my favorite ways to catch them is to look for dirty water. So in the fall time of the year, you're going to find me up the river and up the creeks. So now that's an oversimplification of it. There's always exceptions to every lake. Every lake has got unique to itself as far as the patterns. But here's how you locate them quickly. If you don't have this big grasp of seasonal movements and patterns of fish, and you don't quite understand that, and you're getting started in fishing, or maybe you don't know as much as your confidence levels aren't that high to really implement a seasonal pattern, technique or system. Look at your lake, and based upon the time of the year, I'm going to give you one example here, is pick out the biggest creek on the lake in different part of the lake. Pick out the biggest creek on the lake on the lower end, pick out the biggest creek on the lake that's in the mid part of the lake, and pick out the biggest creek of the lake on the upper end of the lake. If you're fishing when the water temperature is below, say, 55 degrees, go to that major creek on the lower end of the lake. If you're fishing when that water temperature is like between 55 and 70, go to that creek that's in the mid part of the lake. And if you're fishing when the water temperature is over 75, go to that creek on the upper end of the lake. That's going to put you in the right creek based upon the water temperature. Now, once you're in that creek, make that creek your entire lake. Don't worry. If you got a 40,000 acre lake, don't worry about it. Your lake has been narrowed down to that 2,000 or 3,000 acre creek arm. Therefore, it becomes a lot less intimidating. So you launch in the creek there. Most of those creeks have a launch ramp. Put your boat in there and you tell yourself, okay, this is my lake. This little creek that runs 2 or 3 miles back up in here is my lake. I'm going to figure out the fish in this creek. And then you go through a process of elimination. You go in there and you start fishing whatever's available. If it's secondary points or boat docks or lay down trees or a lily pad field or whatever, start sampling some of the available cover with a variety of different techniques. More than likely, eventually you're going to hit on some fish. Once you've exhausted like the obvious cover, like the obvious bank cover, then you might want to move out a little bit and do a little bit of offshore graphing or whatever there. Get out on some of the deeper points, get out on some of the flats with the grass beds, get on those type of areas and look for those fish that are maybe in a little bit more or less obvious areas. Look for those creek channel intersections, look for the ditches, anything like that. And mainly just try to, figure out anything that could possibly be going on in those particular areas. And it's just a matter of hitting on that right structure. It's a matter of hitting on that right structure with the right lures, the right presentations, the right colors. But that's the way you find fish quickly. That'll get you a good system to find them quickly. and more than not, it works. It works for me more than not. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you out. We'll check out later. See you guys.